Come on, come on. I love it. You know I do. Make it last forever and ever. Don't let our love
Follow us on Instagram.
Better follow me
at Philly Jam 95.3 FM.
I'll tell you why there's no love. Simply you're not cool enough for what we have between us. Don't you know you lost my trust? Where you been? We're just friends. Tell them we're just friends. Obvious that it's never gonna work for us. No, no, no. Play with my emotions. It's no devotion. And you get no love, gets no love from me. Even be my friend, and you get no love again. Whatever you do, it will come back to you from me. Tell you why we can't hook up. You get no love, 'cause I had about enough. You get no love, hearing all the lies you tell. You get no love, boy, I thought I knew you well. People think you're my man, my man. They don't even understand because we ain't even in love. You know that you play my emotions. You get no emotion. You get no love from me. Even be my friend, and you get no love again.
Hey, yo, Faith, let me talk to you one time. Check this out. You know how the situation gets so raw. Come on,
Yeah, bring it on
You don't
in.
kiss no more. Things I miss, you don't miss no
Mic
more.
check one.
Night I miss
Yeah, I
you
can.
on the disco floor. Every
Yep.
night since miss you.
Good,
Test,
Nick.
Making hits on tour. Now when I knock, you don't answer the door. The phone ring,
Can
you
you
don't
turn Nick
answer
up?
no
My
more.
mic-
'Cause you ain't trying to chance it no more.
My mic
Got to
sound
find me a
nice,
new
check
diva.
one.
It's two-seater.
And you can never have a piece of my love. So when you see me, don't reach for no hug or don't speak in the club. Don't tell me how you deeply in love. The other day you tried to greet me with thugs.
Follow us on Instagram
Better follow me
at Philly Jam 95.3 FM.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Rebirth. I am your host, Shay Marriott, and you are listening to the Rebirth on Philly Jamz 95.3. Joining me tonight is my co-host, the one and only.
Hey, it's your boy, Mr. Eli Isabel, a.k.a. The South Got Something to Say. We're in the building. Philly Jamz 95.3, Rebirth family. What's good? Shay, what's going on with you, baby?
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Again.
Do you dread Mondays? Or is it
No,
any
I
other
don't
day?
dread Mondays because I enjoy coming here, right?
Okay.
I enjoy, connecting with our Rebirth family and connecting with you. And yeah, so I don't dread Mondays, but they just come fast.
They do
come
come
really
fast. I'm going to
fast.
say something I don't normally say.
What's
Aw.
Aw.
I heard Jen inspired me. I mean, not Jen. I'm sorry. Tosh inspired me to say, aw. You're so sweet.
Oh,
You have your moments.
I have my moments.
You're a little
I'm
half a
sweet
toothache
person.
sometimes.
Oh,
You're
you
a
know
little half a
what? Don't
toothache
even try
sometimes.
it.
You all right. How was your weekend?
My weekend was good. I'm having some work done in the house, so it's been a very unorganized weekend because I
Okay.
like to have everything together.
Upgrading
so
your estate?
I'm living a little bit unorganized right now. for
Upgrading
the
your
next couple
estate?
days, right?
You got some, what you getting done? The new security fence?
See, there you go.
It's all good, Shay. It's all
It's
good.
all good.
Yes.
Once again, welcome to the Rebirth with real talk, with real people about real topics. Tonight we have an amazing show, and it is for the mature crowd only. So if you are not ready to open your mind and your ears, then I'm going to suggest that you just go ahead on and log off and catch us next Monday.
But you know what? I think the church folk need to tune in, though. We're going to put the cheer in bed and bring the church folk on.
That's right.
It's all right. I mean, we all need to learn from each other.
That's right. That's right.
Be open-minded.
Yes. And our hotline is on, so please give us a call at 267-908-3166. We will be taking questions and comments.
Yes.
And we are also looking at our social media, so please feel free to drop a comment or question in the social media. So again, welcome to the Rebirth.
Yes.
And before we get to our guest, who is amazing,
Almighty.
okay, very
All-powerful.
has a wealth of information. I'm so
Yes.
excited to have her here. We're going to go to right here and right now.
All right, y'all. Welcome to this week's version of Right Here, Right Now. This is going to be, so today being the last day, of Black History Month, but not the last time we're going to be reciting Black History facts. I thought it was only appropriate to talk about Miss Ketanji Brown Jackson. For those of you that don't know, I know we've been caught up in this Ukraine stuff with Putin and all of that going on, but right here, something very powerful has happened, man, here in our country, for our community, for us. Miss Ketanji Brown Jackson was appointed to the Supreme Court by President Joe Biden.
Oh, wow.
51-year-old sister from Miami, Florida, out here doing big things. And the great part about her being young, those people are on there till they die almost, seem like. So we're going to have an ally on the Supreme Court because, Clarence, I was about to call him Clarence Carter. Might as well be. We won't call him. We ain't gonna give him no shine. Clarence Carter been on there all this time. He ain't did a damn thing. So, yes, Miss Brown Jackson, come through, sis.
Okay.
Congratulations.
That's what's up.
First
Definitely.
black woman on the Supreme Court.
Definitely. That's what's up.
So that's our right here, right now, and our Black History fact for tonight.
Okay. You knocked it out.
Hit you
in
with the
one
2 for
shot.
1. Hit you with the 2 for 1 tonight. Now, didn't you tell me that next month was starting tomorrow is Women's History Month?
Yes, thank you for the reminder. Yes, next month, March, starting tomorrow, is Women's History Month. And here at the Rebirth, we are going to be honoring and highlighting some amazing women over the next couple of weeks. And although Women's History Month has not started yet, we're kicking it off
Yes.
with an amazing woman who was doing great things.
Who that is?
Great things.
Who that is?
I say all hail the queen.
Yes. My homie
Your homie.
from back in the day.
Yes. But I'm going to formally introduce her, and then you
Yes.
can introduce her as your homie.
Okay, well, let's be
But I'm
formal.
going to give her flowers and,
get these formalities out the way.
Absolutely. So tonight, guys, our topic is loving without boundaries, right? The real truth about open relationships. Again,
Yes.
this is for the mature crowd, but if you dare, please stay on and rock out with us tonight. So tonight, we have Lena Queen,
Yes.
LCSW and Masters in Education.
Smart.
Lena is a practitioner and facilitator of healing. She has her private practice, clinical somatic sexologist, certified hypnotherapist. I might need that. And she's also a cannabis and plant medicine advocate.
I might need that.
She's also, I'm not done yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go
She's
ahead.
also a transformational life and erotic coach. Hey!
I like erotic.
Hey!
There's nothing wrong with that either.
Sister Sexologist. Lena's offerings is Journey Wellness and Consulting Group LLC, the Whole Self Healing Institute Inc., and Healing the Erotic Self Program. Rebirth family, please help me welcome Miss Lena Queen to the Rebirth.
Yes, Neek.
Welcome.
Hey, what's up? That was so wonderful. Thank you. I'm so glad to be in this space.
We are happy to have you in
we
the
are.
space. Yes, this is exciting. And thank you for saying yes. Because this was like a last minute thing. And you was like, yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I said, I know somebody.
absolutely.
Somebody.
That's what I'm
Let me
talking
see if I
about.
can get up with her.
You didn't realize it
The
was
number
the
was the
same
same.
Listen, okay. Yes, a little longevity here. Like literally, I know, right? Small world. I
It
go
is.
by, I have many different names. And
Yes.
depending on how I want to show up in the world.
Right,
The fact
right.
that, like all this connected. I was like, yes. We're gonna do a little integration tonight, though, so let y'all know I
Yes.
am still the same person. But like,
Okay,
yeah, I
okay.
appreciate
I
it.
got to give me a couple of different names. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, it is nothing like it. It's like, how do you want me to be?
Well, the nail salon know me by Tracy.
Whoa. Hold on. Who is Sapphire?
Well, wait a minute now. You want to,
Oh, I thought I heard
I didn't
Sapphire
say
in the
that.
atmosphere.
No, you being funny. You know who Sapphire
I could have
is.
sworn that came out over the airwaves somewhere. My bad. Girl, man.
Right.
Girl,
Oh,
man.
wow. Okay. Anyway, welcome. Welcome to the Rebirth. We are very happy to have
Yes.
you.
Thank you.
I have a load of questions, but I know you want to share how you know Lena.
I just wanted to talk
How
really
would-
quickly.
Nick or Lena, how do you want us to address you tonight?
Actually, Queen.
Queen. There we go.
There it
Queen.
is.
Okay.
Now the homie, yes, that could be. He's gonna explain how we go back.
I'm gonna go with Queen tonight, though. I like that. We're gonna rock with Queen. So Queen and I, believe it or not, or believe it, because we look
Right.
good. We some old heads, but we look good.
Yes, sir.
High school.
Oh,
The
wow.
hallways of Caesar Rodney
wow.
High School
Okay.
in Camden, Delaware is where we first crossed paths.
Yo.
And always, who you see right now? Now, let me just be clear. She's definitely has come out of that cocoon. But underneath that, all of those titles and all of those awesome things that she has become, still the same sweet soul, man. And she was
up.
then. Like it's 11th grade, I think we met Queen.
Yeah.
And and then I had the pleasure of many years later. I didn't see Queen for like I don't know, 15, 20 years.
Oh wow.
Yep.
And then she invited me. I don't know how I even got to her. She had a radio show in Philly on G-Town Radio.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Shout out to Germantown.
Germantown
Wow.
Radio. Yes. And I had a little Facebook group called What Do Black Men Really Think? I think that's how
Yes.
we got back in touch.
Yeah.
And I was spitting at Ism, and Nick said, you need to come on the radio with us.
Yes.
And I drove to Philly, and then we just kind of, whatever happened with that situation, and when Nick had a new situation, she invited me to come on. Her and our old co-host, Nelly B. And we kind of been rocking ever since. And Nick went on to greater pastors and got the PhD and started opening up businesses and all those things and
what's
moved
up.
on.
Right,
But
right.
we are still here.
We are.
From high school.
Yes. It has.
That's a
gone
great
along.
story. Yeah.
What was that like in high school? Was that nice?
Always a sweetheart. Always a sweetheart. Very much so a gentleman in high school.
Charming.
Like, honestly, though, really, because I think a lot of boys at that time, like a lot of toxic masculinity they were dealing with, and like Ed was just always a sweet soul, like always warm. Like I was little sis, and it was
South.
just, honestly,
South.
It
like,
is.
the gentleman coming out.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
yes.
Well,
yes.
thank you, Nick. Queen. Thank you, Queen.
I appreciate it.
Oh,
Appreciate it.
we're gonna hit you with the oh.
Let's get get this thing popping.
Let's get it popping because we got such. I mean, I know we're not going to cover all of this in one show, but we're going to do our best.
That's okay. You can always come back.
Yeah,
that's the one thing about
absolutely.
polyamory that we're going to talk about is like how relationships can be really endless and evolve. So this doesn't have to be the last time. We're going to make the first time.
Yeah.
good, though.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's start it off with that. What is an open relationship? Because people have their different definition of what it is, and a lot
Absolutely.
falls underneath it.
Absolutely.
So we want to really just
Absolutely.
Dig in.
So and I love starting with definitions. So first, let's go ahead and start with the fact that an open relationship is about something that's consensual with all parties involved.
Okay.
Right? It is about usually when we think about a two-person relationship who is saying, or an individual who is dating, right? I'm solo poly, and we'll talk about that soon. But people who actually who agree openly and consensually to be involved with each other and other people.
Okay.
Now that dichotomy, like that framework, can be different. There's so many different type of frameworks we can get into as well. But first, it's consensual. All parties involved are saying yes to this. And two, it is something that is usually ongoing. It's never a fixed thing. Because just in all relationships, even in monogamous relationships, right, communication is important. But normally open, consensual to see other people other than your primary partner.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So are there, and I'm speaking from this male perspective, are there a lot of men who are involved in these relationships?
Yes. So there are a lot of people who are involved in relationships, and I think that's the other thing too, right? I think one of my journeys that I've shared with you, Ed, was actually coming out as queer. So there are a lot of men who are open, who are in the realm of like open relationships, which we normally call ethical non-monogamous relationships, because not all people are ethical. So I think a lot of times fellas come into it thinking like, oh, I can, be greedy and have my cake and eat it too, right? And then, can we cuss on here?
Fucking right.
Okay. Thank you.
No, I'm sorry.
Right? But the one dick rule as well, like, we can go ahead, we can see other people, baby, but as long as I'm the one dick, right? So so I do find that yes, a lot of fellas are definitely into it but it's a growth for a lot of people, because open relationships will bring up insecurities.
Right.
I believe that.
Right? And depending on where you are in your relationship, it's never a fix. Hello? It's never a fix to open up your relationship unless like you are seeking like support with other people, like a professional to say like, this could be something for you to consider.
Okay.
Because people with like disabilities,
Right.
chronic illness and things where people can't show up. Let's get into it. But like fellas, yes, are definitely into it, but normally the reputation is not always ethical.
Okay. Okay. So
Yes, go ahead.
what the rules? Like, are there rules? And if there are rules, how are the rules established?
The rules. So I can't say like there's a rule book in a sense
For
right?
you.
For that would be something. One, consensual. Two, so for me as a polyamorous, a solo polyamorous person, right, my primary relationship is the one that I have with myself. And really most people should have that. But I understand
Absolutely.
too that when you're in marriages and when you're in, committed two-person relationships, right, there's a certain commitment you have to the other individual. I always tell people to look at, there's a resource called morethan2.com, and they have like a relationship bill of rights. So really rules should be about what are those bill of rights, like what does a person have to do with their agency and autonomy, their ability to make decisions and their ability to act on the decisions they make. Because if I meet somebody at the grocery store and I want to give them my number, do I need to call you to say it's okay? Right? How like, so the rules really is about a person's comfortability, and where they are, comfortability and safety. You know, and so I can't say that like there's a defined set of rules. It really does depend on the individual, because I've supported couples and even navigated relationships with myself that it's been different each and every time. Each and every time. I know that's vague, but they're really, the blueprint is the couple. It's like who's involved with it.
Okay.
So are emotions allowed to be involved in these situations? Because you say you have to be really secure with you in order to share someone that you are either love or really, really care about. Like, how do you deal? I'm thinking for men, how do you deal with that ego and put that over here? And specifically for women,
you shouldn't put your ego over there. You should be integrated with your ego to understand who you are as a man and who you are as a woman. So I don't think you put your ego away unless it's a sense of like, I'm navigating some uncomfortability, but I see that you're happy and this is my shit. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of my shit over here. And I'm not going to allow this to impact our relationship. And that's some real mature shit, right? That's some
Selfless.
real, right? In a sense, and without self-sacrificing, because you shouldn't be like, I'm so uncomfortable with this that like, it's going to deter the foundation of our relationship. I should be strong enough to be like, babe, we need to go ahead and check in, because relationship check-ins are important.
Yes, they are.
Right? Relationship check-ins are important. So it just really depends, and there's different types of open relationships. So we have
that's what I wanted you to touch on.
Polyamory, where people have more than one husband or more than one male partner, or man partner. Polygamy, which we also often hear about, which is a man having more than one wife. There are swingers. So this is very much so a very like sexual based relationships where people think emotions aren't involved, but as long as you're human, emotions are always involved. Right? So I think people like to be like, oh, our emotions aren't involved. Well, shit, if you're having an orgasm, isn't your emotion involved?
Right.
I would think.
You would think, right? So I think when people talk about emotions, is I don't want you to fall in love with someone. Right. So, or like, how do I deal with jealousy? Is a natural emotion. And if you're dead ass honest about it, it can absolutely increase the intimacy in the relationship if you're mature enough to say, this is where I am and what I'm feeling, and while I'm going to go ahead and like work and be in my healing about this, I'm also going to be mature enough to talk to you about this, so that way we can come to an understanding.
Okay.
Wow, it takes a lot of mature folk.
It does
to function in this realm. Wow.
Absolutely. And I think what we've seen over the last 7 years is an increase, right, of the visibility of polygamy and polyandry and just polyamorous relationships in general and open relationships in general. And with that, there's people like me who are just like, we want to be verbal and visible to support those who are like navigating it and considering it, especially Black folks. Right. We are seeing that increased visibility. And to me, that's honestly a reclaiming of some ancestral thing. We've come from communities in which it wasn't always just one partner.
Right.
It wasn't always just one partner. Emotions are involved, though, to your point. Yes.
Right.
Do you think that, well, you said that you're starting to see more people that are being open to it. We had a show a while ago, and I think the topic was monogamy. Does it even exist anymore? Like is it fading away? Do you feel that one is above the other?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. I think I like to do what I call decolonizing, really taking out and deconstructing, right, capitalism and colonialism and the values of things. And one doesn't have a value over another. It's about what's going to work for the individual and the relationships that they actually want to have. There are some people who are going to be like absolutely turned off by this conversation and like, it's not for me.
Right.
And thank you for knowing your boundaries.
Right.
And this conversation isn't for you. Maybe at 10 years down the line, you may be like, you know what, there was a time when I was rejecting this, but I'm in a place now that we can actually talk about this, which has happened, right? Which I see happening more. But monogamy is not any less value than non-monogamy. We're just seeing an increased visibility of non-monogamy.
So in a poly relationship, what's the support look like? We're just gonna say there are three people involved, right? What is the emotional support? How do you give of yourself to two other people and vice versa? Like, how do you all? No, it's hard enough for me to support emotionally like one woman. So I'm trying to figure out how to deal with. Maybe I'm not trying to figure it out, but I'm trying. You know what I'm saying? How do you? You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Well, I think the other thing, too, is like we talk about 50-50 versus 100-100. It is like, how are you going to be present and aware and intentional in your relationships? And that with that presence, awareness, and intentionality, how much can you give, right? So if you are married and you are living with your partner, you may not have the same type of emotional currency for your partner who lives outside of your house. That's an important conversation to have, right? It's because the person outside of your house is still a person.
Right.
I can recall being in, polyamorous relationships in which I almost felt like an accessory. And it was like, oh, hell nah, right? Like, that's not how this works. So I think being very clear about your intention and like what emotional space and availability you have is important. right? So that way you're able to and having an ongoing conversation with yourself is going to help you have an ongoing conversation with your lovers.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, it makes a
like-
lot
Yeah,
of
it does.
sense.
I see the
Absolutely.
wheels turning. I see the wheels turning. Like,
As you talk,
yeah.
I'm thinking. Then I'm trying to think of my questions too.
Because it basically just boils down to what we always talk about, self-love, right? Just make sure you have that within yourself, because you can't give that to someone else if you don't have that for your own self.
Absolutely. And I also think too, right, I've come to humbly learn that not everybody that people who are struggling with self-love, it's not that they're not capable of being in a relationship with other people. It is just more work you have to do with your individual self, right? And like when I think about codependent relationships, and a lot of times we're taught in therapy like codependency is a bad thing, but if I see that it is improving a person's quality of life and it's consensual to their partner, who am I to judge that?
Right.
You know, so it really is. It takes a lot of maturity and a lot of work. One of the most phenomenal resources out there is Carl and Kenya Stevens.
Okay.
And they have a service called the Progressive Love Academy, and they only actually mentor couples who've been together 10 years or longer together, because they feel like there's a very much so a foundation that needs to be established. You also have Black and Poly on Facebook, which is a great educational Facebook group for people who are just like trying to find out what's actually going on. So I think it really, if you educate yourself about this, it can open up a lot of doors. And it doesn't have to be continuous. You may say like that. I was telling someone the other day, like, you and your husband may decide to explore this and decide somewhere in your exploration this is not for y'all. And that is okay too.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So what from your experience, what is going on when a couple arrives at the point where they say, we want to try this? Like, what have you seen? What's typically, or is it not
unequal
typical?
libido, I think a lot of times, right? Sex drives, incompatible
Okay.
sex drives, or
Okay.
sexual
See that.
desires and needs can sometimes be that, and want to stay together. Understanding that there's so many types of intimacy, right? Like sexual, physical, metaphysical, spiritual,
Right.
financial. So I think couples really recognizing that there's somewhere in their intimacy that one partner capability and desirability, I want to, but I can't.
Yeah.
Right? Or I'm unable to. And that's not about shaming the other person to get where the other person is. It's saying, okay, well, what are our options to explore? Because I want you happy, right? And also, too, this is something I'm committed to you.
Right.
You know, so I find sexual compatibility. I mentioned earlier, disability, living with chronic illness and pain. Right. You know, painful sex shouldn't happen, but it does happen. Right.
Yeah.
But if you get to a point where painful sex is just something that it doesn't allow pleasurable sex to occur, then people have opened up their relationships that way. Sometimes it's happened organically. You know, organically, they may know somebody that they've always both loved, and then before you know it, right, it's just it has happened.
Conversation has
right?
happened.
Right.
Conversations or some other things has happened. So it's sometimes it can be very organic. It can be very organic, but there's a lot of reasons why people explore it, because it seems sexy.
Right.
Right, it seems sexy to want to do that, and if that's the case, go to Pleasure Garden to find out if that's actually what you want to do, which is a swinging club in Philly, right? Or find a swinging club in your area. You know, find something in your area. Put yourself in the environment to be like, what would it be like? You don't have to participate or play. But you know, Pleasure Garden, yeah.
Those mouths don't get fed. You can ask.
So, yeah, a variety of reasons why people come in. Sometimes one partner wants it and another one doesn't. It's not my role to convince the other person to do this. It is like, all right, let's explore why are these things coming up, and then to have them come up to a decision for themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I was doing a little research,
yes.
before the show, and what I read was, don't start. What do you?
I'm waiting to hear what you have to say.
He's like, I'm intrigued.
Carry on, Shay. I'll call you Marriott tonight. We're going by last names. Carry on, Marriott.
What I read was that having a threesome is not really considered open
It's not.
relationship because it's
sex.
right.
It's sex, right? So I think that being clear, right? Having sex is not having a relationship. Single ladies, single fellas say. having sex, is not having a relationship. It's definitely a component of it. So yeah, having a threesome is just that. It's having a threesome. The conversation that happens to be like, well, where is this going, or where could this actually go? But yes, that's just sex.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just sex. It's
and do you find, and I think that kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier. I think when people think about, that's new to it or whatever, and they think about open relationships or whatever, that's the first thing that they're thinking about is the sex and not the relationship part of it.
Yes.
Right? You know what?
Yes.
But I'm the average person, and the average person
right.
thinks that. Yeah.
Especially a man, right?
It's like, oh, I get to have multiple sex partners, and right.
Absolutely, right? But even having threesomes is fucking complicated because, the thing too is some person could be like, well, what about me? Or maybe the partners don't want to play with each other. They just want to play with the partner that they're mutually interested in, So there's so many facets to like having threesomes or group sex or anything of that nature. And it's not always just a free for all.
Right. And these from what people you've talked to and maybe a life experience, how often are there in these threesomes, do men interact?
Well,
or is this all about focus on a woman?
Well, I think we're also talking in like very heteronormative like way lens.
And bring me out.
Right?
Not bring me out, but bring me out. Bring my way of thinking out. Yeah.
Expand your way of thinking.
Expand my way of thinking.
Yes, right. Bisexual men and gay men exist, and they exist validly, and their sexual desires and needs are valid. So yes, men do interact in threesomes and sexual experiences that they actually want to experience. When it comes to heterosexual or heteroflexible men may be open to sexual experiences with other men, but again too, the conversation has to be like, what are your hard boundaries, what are your soft boundaries, what are like the hell no's, and what are the I could considers, and also too the stigma of a woman having two men. Right, and the first thing that people come to mind is train. Right. Oh, that's not a threesome. That's a train.
Right.
Well, it's a threesome. And women have a right to that without slut shaming.
Right.
Right. But we do recognize in a heteronormative space that women's agency and autonomy to lean in to what she desires isn't validated. Right. It isn't validated, and it comes with a consequence. Most times, unless you're really around people who are self-liberated, sexually liberated, and mature enough not to weaponize her desires.
Right.
And I think it's important to be with people who don't weaponize your desires.
Wow. This is
Matt,
we should have some candles burning and the lights should be down. This is some really
very Badu-ish.
It's deep talk. Deep talk. You're listening to the Rebirth on Philly Jamz 95.3. We were talking about the truth about open relationships. We have the queen in the building.
Yes, literally.
If you have a question or comment, the line is open. Please give us a call at 267-908-3166. That's 267-908-3166. Shout out to everybody that is joining us online. Reladelic, Serfancia, Shannon. Who else is out there?
What up, Shan?
DH. Thank you guys for tuning in.
What up, Aja Free?
Yeah, guys, come on. If you got some questions, let's put it out there now while the queen is here, so we can get the answer.
Don't be scared. So
it
queen.
Can be anonymous.
Yes, I have a question. Why are this is such an open and free spirited lifestyle, right? Why are titles? Because in my mind, when you live a lifestyle like this, you don't want to be boxed in. You want to be able to be free and do what you want to do when you want to do it with whoever you want to do with it. So why are all these titles to define these different things really important?
Because it's not always free and free spirited. I think there's a misperception that because you're outside of monogamy, that somehow that there are no holds barred, or like you said, no boundaries, when boundaries very much so are there. And you need titles to understand, right? You need labels to understand, like, what are the boundaries? I don't know what a red light means unless someone tells me what a red light means. So I think that part is important too. When you think about polyandry, like, I'm one of very few therapists, and there are tens of us who are out and open and do this advocacy and education work. But it's very private.
Yeah.
It's very private. You're very selective, right? Discretion is key. When you think of like professionals and you think of, regardless, the politics of respectability is always in play. And when you're thinking about the Black community in particularly, it is always in play, and sometimes oppressively so. So those things are become important because people want to know, who am I to you, and like how far can I go, and what can my expectations be? And I think those things are important regardless of the relationship style.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, are open relationships cheat free?
Fuck no.
Right? You still cheat. You tell me I can have this over here, and they still cut up.
Yes. I have. Listen, some personal. Dudes have fucked this up. Like, literally, because they're
Pretty much, huh?
right. Like, and then also for the ladies that I have been involved with, right? Like, there's this sense of like, well, you can't start this new relationship because we're trying to figure this out over here, and it's like, well, that's not how that works, right? So yes, cheating does happen because not everybody is ethical, right? You're not upfront about what's actually going on. You're not honest and communicating about what's going on. So cheating absolutely can and does happen in open relationships and polyamorous relationships. And it's a shame. It's a shame because it's literally like, because again, it goes back to ego strength. If you're not strong enough with the truth, you're not strong enough to be in a relationship, period. Like, you really just shouldn't, because all you're doing is hurting yourself and hurting the other person. But not everybody is like strong.
That's interesting.
Ego strength.
Yeah.
Not everybody's strong with the truth.
Because you would think that would be the
That's beautiful.
that would be the one place you should be able to.
And then ego becomes in play because what if you don't like what we call metamor? So if my partner has a lover, and then my relationship to that partner, we call it metas, right?
Okay.
Like, I'm not involved with you, but we have this mutuality. And if I don't like that person, right, that can cause strife for our partner. So then that could cause something where you feel like you have to keep something away, which needs to be addressed,
gotcha.
right? If I feel like I can't be confident enough to share things with you, it's no different again than a monogamous relationships, right? Some of the same rules do apply.
Right.
So yeah, check that
Sheesh.
ego. I know, right? Y'all were just like, what? It's fun. Can it be fun? Just as fun as monogamous relationships, just as rich. You have people who have what we call polycules. So, they have their relationships and like their relationships are closed. So you could have like two couples that are in a relationship and their relationship is closed, right? And that's their polycule. Four of them. And they could raise their children together and share household expenses and, not just emotional and sexual intimacy, but life intimacy.
Right.
So it really can be a community,
Do a lot of those people look like us?
I can't say, I don't know the numbers per se, like a lot, but I do know that, we have our fair share.
Yeah.
I think it's more than anything else too, when it comes to Black folks being sexually liberated, we're more trying to overcome in our healing being sexually repressed. Right. And then those who are in open relationships or polycules and things of that nature could more likely be in, and this is a general statement, but thinking about interracial relationships and how people of other races and cultures, right, could see this differently. So I don't think there's a lot of us actually doing it. And if it is, we're quiet. Right? Like I said, I would check out the Black and Poly Facebook group, and that's probably the largest Facebook group of Black and polyamorous people, period. And that would kind of give you an understanding of people who are trying or engaged, but I don't even know if there's research on the number.
Wow.
That's a good question though.
So, personal question. At what point, how long has it been? When did you decide or say that this is what I want to explore?
So there was a point where I was an unethical hoe.
Where is the sound for that? Come on, you got.
Can I get a I don't know, give me some.
I love that unethical hoe.
I was and I was like, yeah, this stuff ain't for me. Like I'm not built that way. And so I really started to be like, it can't be just me who wants to have not just open relationships, but meaningful, intimate relationships. And that kind of started my journey I would say at this point, maybe 15 years ago.
Wow. Okay.
Maybe 15 years ago that really started that. I think if I think about it, I've always been non-monogamous, always been, the ability to polyandry, like more than one love. I've always been able to have that. It's just a matter of like being able to figure out to do it the right way and not at my expense.
Right.
So when you had those feelings, were there times, when you were inside of a relationship, how did you navigate that? Did you ever try to talk your partner into, listen, this is what I'm feeling. What do you think? And they was just like, zero, no, we're not,
Thankfully, I haven't had that.
Wow. Okay.
And also too, if to me that would vet somebody that they wouldn't be dateable for me.
Right.
So even in the past, right, I've always dated individuals who've been open to wanting to explore open relationships. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. Like you said, like this queen now, I've come a long damn way because all the insecurities, all the freaking out, all the things, been there, done that. Like I've made it hard for lovers as well, which is probably why they fuck shit up. So I want to be accountable for that. I don't want to be like, oh shit, no. I've done fuck shit up too. So yeah, for me though, I've always known this part of myself, and I've always wanted that world that I could explore my sexuality, and safely with someone that I love. So to me, it's just like, yes.
I low key remember when you first started Widener, when you went back to school.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you fellow Widener student?
Yes, that's my MD.
Yeah.
That gives you the sex therapy.
Yes, they do have, they do have that program there. Yeah.
And you showed me a picture of this woman. She was so damn fine. I was like, damn, queen, goddamn. Look, she turned into home and like, damn, player, I see you. Fine as frog's hair. Whatever happened to her?
So silly.
Yeah, that relationship didn't end. And the attraction was like maddening, and like that honestly actually ended up disappointing me too, because I thought that person was also a friend. But I think also too, when you think about when other people show up in the relationship and how they actually show up, I have love for her, but like yeah, I know. Yeah, she was fine as fun. Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah.
It's and not to fetishize, but she's she died. She died. But like, yeah.
So I can give props. What props to do? You know what I mean?
Thank you very much.
She bagged a nice one.
He's so crazy.
But yeah, no. So and honestly, I think even since then, well, no, I've dated definitely others since then, but really been in this place again, exploring solo poly. I think really after that relationship, exploring solo poly, because it really was about me being in a better place for me as a lover and understanding what my lovership was. Because I also too was attracting people who spoke to my professional side. And I was like, yeah, no, my personal relationship shouldn't feel like work.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yes. So now, in the monogamous world, you will hear people, especially when there's been cheating going on, affair or whatever. It says, well, I'm in love with two people.
Yeah.
I'm in love with two people, right? Yeah. And then, of course, that question is, how can you be in love with two people, right? So what does that look like in
I love what
you never been in love with two people?
This is not about me.
I just want to ask you a question.
I'm actually going to bring up, because that's actually really a good thing. I think we think of love as an emotion and not just as an experience, right? And the fact that we actually place a lot of limitations on what the heart can do. The heart can hold a lot, and love can be different in a lot of different ways.
Right.
And I really love more than anything starting to look at how ancestor Bell Hooks looked at love in her book All About Love, and she actually, I was trying to bring it up, but she actually talks about like 7 different ways in which love actually occurs, and I am going to find it because it is just one of the dopest ways of being like. And I would also tell people like, please get that book All About Love, because she really breaks down like the tenets of love, looking at like respect and nurturing and communication, and really being able to break down like, all right, you're saying you love me, but love being both an action word and an emotion. What does that look like? So it's very much so. Actually, supported people who are in love in a monogamous relationship, but have fallen in love with another person. And and a lot of times, you know, I do believe that sometimes you gravitate and you have these emotional connections to people that sometimes you just can't help. That doesn't mean that you can't manage those things. Being in love doesn't mean you have to act on it. Right. And I think a lot of times monogamous partners can feel betrayed that their partner is in love with someone else, because we've also been socialized to believe that love is this very like mono thing, and it's so damn expansive. So you deal with that by really understanding, like, well, what does that mean for them, right? Do they want to share that with the people that they're actually in love with? Because they may just want to acknowledge it for themselves and not take any action on it. So I think it's really about discovering for that person, like, what does that actually mean? Because they could be shocked at the possibility that, oh my God, I'm in love with two people, or I love two people. And like, what does that mean for me? What does that mean for my character? What does that mean for my sense of being? You're not a bad person. Right? You're not a bad person. You're just a person who is just expansive in your ability to love.
And that all goes back to these westernized ideas about marriage, love, and relationships, right? That we've all completely bought into.
Absolutely.
You know, throughout our history of being on this planet.
Right. That's one of the things of, like, you know, Western socialization, particularly in the U.S., right? Like, society needs marriages in order to exist. You know, and it's a really great way of policing people. We come from, when you think about ancestrally, and whether it is African ancestry, Asian ancestry, right, Latin ancestry, like we come from communities that have always had ways of multiple loves, multiple ways of showing up and caring. And with colonization, that was one of the things that they've taken away from us, was our sexuality, our gender, and our way of loving, our sense of community, and not in this. Not in a way that, again, is like sex negative, but in this way that's really about uplifting each other. And now you're seeing, again, the visibility where we're being reintroduced to concepts that we've always had. Always had. I know it's powerful.
Yeah.
It does. And I think for me, too, it helps me. You know, there's a lot of shame. I think that's the other thing, too, that, you know, people navigate, is the shame of, well, what if I'm found out, you know, being polyamorous? There was a lot of shame that I dealt with, you know, in the beginning, because I thought, because, you know, we're in a, you know, basically Judeo-Christian, right, monogamous relationship. What does that mean to be outside of those things? So it really does have people really looking at themselves and their relationships, to whether it's faith or their integrity, to be like, all right, what does this mean? So that's why my work has become more important to me, because it is about that liberation, to say it's not about your faith being wrong, it's about our faith being bastardized and colonized, right? And decolonizing our faith, right? To reclaim something that's always been ours.
Wow. That's why she's the queen.
That's why she's the queen.
Sam Marshall says, no matter how freaky a man is, the woman gives the green light on how far things will go.
In that relationship, absolutely. I you know, and you know, I think it really depends on. There's a lot of gender in that, but what if the man is not uncomfortable with how liberated the woman is, right? And I've had that happen, where I've had, you know, men lovers who are not comfortable with my ability to enjoy sex, not comfortable with my ability to have multiple loves, was not comfortable. So I think in certain relationships, absolutely, you know, but I think as a whole, are we really comfortable with sexually liberated women? And society and social media would tell me no.
Right.
Social media don't tell me that. It's wide open. But I hear what you're saying. As a rule,
right? Like, black manosphere is a thing, which is very much so, like, in black men particularly, who are in this kind of like non-consensual, like not having sex type of thing. Like for white folks, they call them incels, like involuntarily celibacy.
Okay.
And so there could be a lot of bitterness that happens about women's liberation. And it's not a gender war, right? I think it's about gender expectations. Right. And then how those expectations show up in our sexual desires, our sexual wants, our sexual needs.
So
I know, right?
There's another comment on here, and I think that it kind of speaks to what we were saying earlier about it's not just about sex. So Reladelic says you might as well be in general he's speaking, you might as well be a porn star.
Porn stars are in monogamous relationships. A porn star, sex work is work.
That's a work,
right? So sex work is work. And I think the other thing too, when it comes to pornography, we have a very, again, sex negative way about understanding pornography. So when we understand that those human beings are mostly engaging in consensual work, like what you see on film, like I promise you behind the scenes, it's not that. You know, it's work. And it's absolutely positively not the same. A non-monogamous and pornography is not the same.
Yeah.
You know, but I understand for for people's value set, it absolutely could be that. Absolutely.
Yeah. And again, just reiterating that an open relationship is not based upon just sex.
No, when we talk about open relationships, so there's a lot, and people may not always want sex, right? They may want emotional intimacy that they may not be getting from their partner, right? They may, polyandry comes from this. Is one of the things about polyandry is like it's not fair for one person to be all things to one person.
You can't.
And you absolutely right. But again, how we're socialized, we're looking for our forever, right? We're looking for our one. We're looking for the one that's going to make us feel better when we feel bad. And there are places for those things, but there isn't always fair to the other person. Right. So I think when we're looking at polyamory, we're really looking at it from the space of being what I call radically honest and radically authentic. Being able to have those conversations, shadow work, being able to have those conversations with yourself about those things you don't like about yourself, to come to those like truths, and then like engaging in your healing in a way that's going to have you accountable and responsible to self and others.
Right.
Yeah.
Listening to you talk, it just seems like, I'm just out from the outside looking in, of course. Yeah. It seems like it's way more work than being just in a, you know what I mean?
It is.
Like it's a lot of work, a lot of stuff to think about all the time to make sure that.
It absolutely is more work. It's like you said, it's more than one person, right? Like you have more than one lover, you have more than one partner. And again, so many ways of intimacy, being physical, being emotional, being financial, like being spiritual. There's so many levels of intimacy that people can engage in polyamory and sex not be on the table. Yeah. We have to talk about asexual folks, right? Like asexual folks who are navigating spaces where they don't have innate desire to actually have sex. That doesn't mean they can't, experience arousal, but sex is not something that they want in relationships, right? It's a non-factor. So looking at it from an intimacy perspective, if I'm in a relationship with an asexual person, and we decide to open up the relationship, it that could be something where it is something about someone seeking sex. But open relationships is not about someone seeking sex. It's about someone seeking intimacy and being able to self-define what that intimacy is. Absolutely.
So we have a question about soul ties. So how do you do you believe in soul ties, or how does?
So I'm an energy worker, so I absolutely believe that there are soul ties. I don't believe that soul ties don't mean soul mates, right?
Okay.
And soul mates doesn't necessarily mean either two that is an individual that you're supposed to be romantically or sexually involved with. Soul ties is about really your karmic energy and what you're supposed to be doing in this lifetime and why you're tied to that person. And just like anything else, when you are, doing energy work and in your energy healing too, right? Is that a tie that you actually want, or is that a tie that you actually want to break? So remember, like, we have a nervous system, right? Our nervous system are literally electrical impulses. When we think about the spirit and the soul, we're talking about our connection to the things that can't often be described. So soul ties, absolutely, I do believe in. And again, I don't always believe that it's something that we're supposed to be engaged with that person with. You have to figure out what's the lesson you're supposed to be getting.
Right.
So you speaking from that person's question is from a perspective of creating soul ties via
sexual
intercourse.
Yeah,
okay.
Because you always hear we have these multiple partners or whatever, that it's creating soul ties.
Yeah, no,
right.
that I don't.
You see
that
the pictures on Facebook.
Yeah, I know. It's like when you have sex, when a woman's vagina has all these partners, all the energy. Now,
Yeah.
you know, do I believe that, yes, we have an energetic impression that we do leave on our lovers? Absolutely. I don't believe every sexual intercourse means that there is going to be something left, right? Soul tie for me is not just sexual. And it's not just because someone has sex with another that you have a soul tie. You might have just had really damn good sex.
And that's that.
That's that. And you just keep going back to that mammy jammy. And like,
So much for that soul tie theory.
Right.
With the little devil and all that. Get that out of here.
no, not at all. Not at all.
You are listening to the Rebirth on Philly Jamz 95.3. If you want to call up and ask a question, please give us a call at 267-908-3166. We got the amazing queen in the building, and we are talking about open relationships.
I have a sidebar question.
Oh boy.
No, this is not crazy. So
Okay.
I work with a young man who, this is how I've been learning a lot about just listening to him talk, right? He's 15, 16. He hasn't said to me that he's gay or any of that stuff, but he and all of his friends consider themselves non-binary. He's a very feminine young man himself. And along with his current issues outside of that, his mental health stuff, when he's at school, sometimes he gets teased about his femininity,
Right.
and their little crew, but he's so open and wants to push this agenda about who he is right now. And so when people and I'm going to say specifically young people who are still trying to figure out who they are, when they come to you and they're trying to push this agenda, do you feel like they need to be really confident and be able to stand within that?
Do heterosexual
project that?
cisgender men feel confident about who they are in their manhood?
Absolutely.
Why? You're full of shit.
Who? Okay, ask the question again. Do heterosexual men feel what?
Do heterosexual cisgender men or boys, teenage
Okay.
boys,
Oh, okay.
Boys, excuse me, I said men. Boys
Right.
feel comfortable about who they are in discovering their relationship to their manhood,
No,
their
absolutely
masculinity.
not. Okay, absolutely not. However, here's my question to that, or here's my answer to that also. I don't know if there's also the stigma and all the other stuff that comes along with that. When I'm trying to figure myself out as a heterosexual young man who don't know shit about any of that, there's not as much pressure on me, I think, as for this particular young man that I'm
You don't
speaking
think for
of.
black guys there's not? So here's what I can say. Kudos to that young person to having the bravery, the courage, and the authenticity to live their truth, right? So whether you are cis or you're transgender, whether you are queer or non-queer, we all through life go through exploring who we are. You use the word agenda instead of self-discovery, right? Which already says that there's a stigma about people discovering their queerness, because all of a sudden we think at 18 is when you're supposed to have discovery. Well, what about the 18 years that they just had to say, here's who I am and here's what I'm feeling? I think a lot of times as adults, we don't give kids the agency to understand that they know who they're not. Right? That they know who they're not, and that they're navigating in a world that is absolutely unsafe, particularly for black cisgender individuals, who don't toe the line of gender expectations. Right. And I teach at Goldie Beacom in human sexuality. And I do know that sometimes my teachings can cause an existential crisis, because I'm here about expanding the narrative to say that what we've been taught, we haven't been taught all of it. And trans and queer people have been around as long as humanity have, including in the African American community and the African community. So his mental health, I wonder what would happen if he was around people, if he was in a safe, loving environment. You said non-binary, so using they. So if they're in a safe, non-binary, environment, I wonder what his outlook would be. How would he be able to navigate the world in a world that was safe?
I think he's trying to create that safe environment for himself with the group of friends that he has. But the people that are not their friends are the issue.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
what would you say to him? What advice would you give to him?
What advice I would get to him is to continue to navigate in your truth, to recognize that what you're experiencing in high school is a token of what you're actually going to experience outside of high school, and know that there's a larger queer community that is waiting for you, right? Because that's what ends up happening. We end up creating community with individuals, with land, with places that are safer for us, right? That we don't have to always explain who we are and what we be, like people just know that we are, you know, and that's enough, you know. So absolutely keep pressing forward. There are services out there like the Addict. There are services out here like Journey Wellness. You know, there are the United Way Pride Council, which I'm a co-chair of. So we talk about this fun stuff, right? But I also do this other stuff, the advocacy stuff, to raise the vibration that queer and trans folks are valid.
Right.
Period.
Absolutely.
Right. And that if those, you know, you don't have to agree with me, but that doesn't change who I am as a gender fluid, queer person. Period. And I knew I was at 13. 13 I knew at 13. Right? Like I didn't have the space to be authentic. You know, and I wonder about what does that do to stunt our development when we don't have the space to be authentic.
Right.
Just because we offend other people.
Right.
Yeah, powerful.
Isn't it?
Absolutely.
I heard Queen speak at the mental health conference, and I don't even know what the question was, but when you was just going, I was like this. I was just sitting there because it was just so much. It was so much to take in, and I appreciate it because, of course, being a therapist, you know, you see the parents that come in and they're like
freaked out.
You know,
fix
them. Right.
And it's just, I've had parents who be like, you ain't going to Queen. All she going to do is put that stuff back in your head. And I'm like, but you want them to see a therapist, a sex therapist, a therapist who is actually qualified to actually do this work. Like we're qualified to do this work. Like, let us help your child navigate their things. And because what you're telling me that as a parent is that your love has boundaries. Right. That your love has expectations and that your love is not expansive enough for your child to be authentically who you are, even if you don't understand it. Parenting is leadership.
Yes. Absolutely.
And most parents only they teach their children, they know what they know, only what they know, and that's what they try to instill or pass down that way of living. And it may not be the same for that particular person, that child.
And the wonderful part is there's so many resources, there's so many avenues that parents can educate themselves. There are parent support groups, virtual and in person. So I think that's the other thing that's been very, very phenomenal in the last 10 years is the expansiveness, regardless of where you are in your sexuality and gender journey, right? We're talking about polyamory and things of that nature. And I keep telling folks, y'all don't think queer kids grow up to have queer families? Right? Like y'all, you know, y'all don't think that like somehow we don't create our own. And even if we don't verbalize who we are, we don't verbalize that to y'all. That doesn't mean that we don't know to us. You know, we don't call it coming out anymore. We call it inviting in because we're going to center our experiences to be like, there's a sense of privacy. Just like, you know, people are just like, I don't even know what you're doing in the bedroom. I ain't tell you that. I ain't talking about my kinky shit. Right? I ain't talking about that, right? I told you who I love. And as a polyamorous person, I'm telling you how I love. You know. So yeah, a lot of people aren't equipped, and then you know, it's but you can become equipped if you choose to do so.
Yeah. And it's a lot to learn.
It absolutely is.
It's a lot to learn about it, and I'm absolutely open because, like I said, in my line of work, you know.
Yes. And listen, I have sent people to you, particularly, you know, Black Christian women who are like navigating their sexuality. And it's like, all right, I'm going to help you with this part. And then I got somebody who's going to help you with the other part. Right? So like you were absolutely one of my go-tos to like when I'm navigating, you know, individuals who are feeling conflicted about their natural desires.
Yeah.
You know?
And I, you know, and I appreciate that. Cause that was the first time that actually, I heard about you was through a mutual client, and she spoke so highly of you. And then I would hear, of course, Lisa Savage, right? So and then I finally got a chance to meet her at the mental health conference a few months ago, and I'm like, Queen, okay, hey Queen, and we embraced each other, you know,
like yes.
So, but it was like I said, I was very I just enjoyed hearing you speak because it was just so.
Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate
and
it.
I'm
Thank
looking
you.
around the crowd. I'm like, y'all need to be taking, y'all need to be taking notes.
I always
you
tell
know?
people, like, when I speak to you, not have your pen and pad ready, because I already know I have a lot to give in a very short period of time.
Right.
Yes.
And Ed has seen me evolve over time as a orator and a speaker, to be like, all right, you know, once I was able to do my own healing and get some things out the way, I was just
Right.
like, all right, come on with
Let's
it.
go.
Like, let's go.
Yeah.
It's important.
Let's speak about that. I know we're wrapping up, but I would like to wrap up on that, about when you said once you did your own healing, because I think that is so important.
Absolutely. So, you know, I've been personally in my healing for 20 years, right? I'm a survivor of many things, and each step of my healing, I was also able to be very fortunate to have a mentor who introduced me to comedic yoga and energy work and meditation and things of that nature.
I love comedic yoga.
Right. So I actually learned under Dr. Mawata Ashby. So like I really come from this. I really being able to integrate this into my practice, and then you know I started the PhD program, and then Spirit was like, how many degrees do you need to do your work? So I'm all but dissertation. I actually went up to chapter 2, and I'm actually writing my dissertation work now as a
Okay.
Oh, wow.
book.
Okay.
So literally being engaged in your healing is your responsibility, because you can't show up in these relationships fulfilled, right? We'll look at the flow of oceanality. Dr. Zleka Healthworth Clark has this model. We're talking about like, what does fulfillment and pleasure look like in your relationships, and not just orgasms, right? Like, so being in my healing was an important part of understanding like who I am and like the type of life I wanted. My daughter and my spiritualist all the time tell me, like, you know, if you curate the life that you want, why aren't you doing it? Right. So being in your healing is about your responsibility to self and your relationship to others. So if you're not, I would encourage anyone, like, be engaged in your healing. And if you don't know what that looks like and where to start, listen to your intuition, because that something says has been hollering at you for a long ass time. And every time you don't listen to that something says, your ass gets tripped up in something. Right. So like, listen to your intuition, because your intuition is going to guide you in your healing.
Yes.
Yeah.
That intuition never lies.
Never.
It never lies.
Listen.
This has been amazing. It has been a pleasure.
definitely
And I
need
can't
more
believe the
time.
whole hour just.
We didn't even take a commercial or nothing.
I told you I wasn't taking no commercial breaks tonight. I was like, I just want to look, my chair all turned. I'm
We
like,
rocking out.
Great. Like, let's talk.
yes,
Yes.
absolutely. Would you come back?
I sure would. And then maybe I can get y'all back. 'Cause I'm getting ready to go
Yes.
back and do my own thing on Blog Talk
Okay.
Radio.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Awesome.
I'm getting ready to come back.
The beginning.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Liberated living.
Yes. Okay.
Love it.
Liberated living.
Love
Let's
it.
go,
Yes.
Queen. Let's go.
When, I mean, put it out there. Put the plug out there.
Yeah, so if you want to follow more, you know, connect with me. I am Sister Sexologist on all the socials, so sistersexologist.com. I have pleasure workshops in my Liberated Learning series coming up that is particularly for women and femme folks. And then again, you know, I'm going back to doing a little bit of radio on Blog Talk Radio.
Nice.
My show called Liberated Living. So
Nice.
yeah, connect with a girl.
Yes.
No doubt.
Yes. Thank you so much. It
Yes.
has been an absolute honor to have you on.
I
We
appreciate it. I
appreciate
enjoyed
you.
it.
Appreciate
Absolutely.
the information
Thank
that
you,
you
thank
shared.
you.
And of course, we wish you a lot. Okay, we got
Drea says we need part two.
part two.
Y'all put in the chat what y'all want to talk about. Put the, put the
Yes.
topics in. Put the topics in the chat.
That's a good idea.
So that way we can come back and do this thing. And again, I got my
Absolutely.
workshop, so sistersexologist.com, and stay tuned for the workshops that are here.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to do virtual. We're going to do some live stuff. So yeah.
Okay.
Word.
We're gonna be on the workshop.
Let go.
Lizard.
I ain't scared. I done did some little
We
gatherings
did,
with
see?
Queen before.
Yeah,
You know.
Okay. All
Know
right.
how it go.
Catch you at the Pleasure Garden.
All right. What is the time? What time is it?
Thank you guys for joining us tonight. You have been listening to the
Yes.
Rebirth on Philly Jamz 95.3. Make sure you tune in every Monday night at 7 p.m. where we have real talk with real people with real topics. Once again, next Monday, we will be starting our women's history. Who we got coming?
It's a surprise.
It's a surprise.
They'll see the flyer. You will see the flyer.
Thanks again, Queen, for joining us. Thank you guys for tuning in. We love you, and we'll see you next Monday. Have a great night.
Peace. Follow us on Instagram
Better follow me.
at Philly Jam 95.3 FM.
Black woman. I want to create a beautiful world for you, black woman. Black woman. I want to create a beautiful world for you, black woman. A world